Hey guys, alright, let's see if anybody comes to this piano lesson. This is in the middle of the night, and I'm just going to wait for some people to arrive before I actually begin, because I want to teach some people who are actually here. So let's see who's up. Out of 18,740 people who are subscribers to my channel, how many of you are going to be up at 2:44 in the morning and want to learn some stuff on the piano? To be honest, I just played a show. We're at the Wells Fargo Center tonight, and we played with the pop artist that I'm playing with, and it was about, I don't know, 12,000 people in the audience, and everybody else in the band and the crew all went to bed, back on the tour buses, and I'm just here with my piano. See, I have my piano right here, and kind of wanting to just talk to some people who are interested in music as much as I am. So let's talk about some music. Ask me some questions. I'm gonna put, oh yeah, I don't see your comments yet, so I need to go to my page so I can see the actual comments that are going on. I'm gonna go to this. It's gonna look a little weird to me, and I'm gonna turn this around so you can see my piano. You can also see me there. All right, obviously it's delayed. Putting on this little headset so you can see the piano. It's kind of crazy. It's like a new system that I have for, like, check it out. It's a little weird. We'll see if this works. I'm gonna like adjust this so that it's a little more up. There, that's probably best. Okay, so you can see this now. Now let's see. Okay, did you get a lot of jazz? Did you go to a lot of jazz piano bars to play the piano in my life? I mean, I was playing in bars since I was 14 years old. There were smoky bars in Chicago and the North Shore. I was in a band called the Slack Daddies. I was like the kid in the blues band. It was all older people. Oh, My Foolish Heart? Isn't that a beautiful song? I actually love that. It's a little weird wearing this headset and seeing myself in delay, but I'm gonna try. What key is My Foolish Heart in? I think it's an F, right? It's like... Is it... That's not the right chord. What is it? I think it just goes to the 2 there, right? No. Okay, sorry, that's close enough, right? It's a pretty song. I'm gonna try to answer some of these questions as we go. Oh yeah, so the Bach Pieces, I've been telling myself that I would learn, so this is to answer Leah's question, and maybe I'll play Spain in a little bit, it is one of my favorite songs, but the Bach Pieces, I mean, literally you could learn any Bach Pieces and it will improve your technique. I would start with the Well-Tempered Clavier. If you can learn it in its entirety, you will have Bach technique in every key. That's like the best possible thing that you could get. I've been telling myself that I would play that I would play the whole Well-Tempered Clavier, but I haven't yet. I've gotten like through the first prelude and a little bit of the first fugue. But there are a couple pieces that I do every day for my practice purposes, just because I learned them a while to accompany some tap dancers and they've stuck with me. One is the jig in G minor. I don't remember what else it's called, but it's the G minor jig. I think it's the only one. It's it's really hard to play it with this headset on. I'm trying this new thing because I'm on tour right now and I don't have a microphone stand, so I actually have my iPhone attached to my head through this weird apparatus. It's kind of funny and it's hard to play with it on, so you'll have to pardon my playing. But that's one of them. The other is this one. That up. So that second one, oh, you tried to find the name of the second. That was, I'm pretty sure, an English suite in C minor. Yeah, English, I'm pretty sure, like, Bach, if you look up Bach English suites and then look up the C minor, I believe that's the one that is. And then there's a prelude that's actually a transcription for piano by Liszt of an organ prelude that Bach did in A minor that starts like this. That up, obviously. But you don't need to see me play the whole thing, but you'll recognize it if you find it. It's a Bach organ prelude in A minor transcribed for piano by Liszt. Somebody asked about McCoy Tyner technique. I actually have a few videos on McCoy Tyner technique. So I don't really need to go into a full demonstration here if you look through the backlog of my videos. But, I mean, there's one I would highly recommend learning is comping technique first. It's all chordal voicings. So it's just based on the minor, the Dorian scale, and then you do it in fourths with like this third on top. That's sort of the, it's either all fourths or stacked fourths with a third on top. So it's like, that's your first one if you're in C minor, and then this is your second one if you're in C minor. It's just moving up, every note moves up a whole step, and then the next one is this, which this obviously can't be a fourth because it's a tritone if you use the Dorian scale, so it just ends up being a tritone, and then all the rest end up being fourths. and then that's a stacked fourth, that's a stacked fourth, and then it starts over up here. So that's a really cool McCoy Tyner comping technique that you can use, and it ends up being like. And then you can like take it in different directions chromatically. That's McCoy Tyner did a lot of chromatic stuff. So when you're comping, like if a sax player is doing stuff like he's playing sort of what Coltrane would have played, like some chordal stuff. I can't play what Coltrane could play. I can't play that on piano, but if the sax player were playing like... So let's say a sax player is doing that, then you're using your chordal compings down here, right? You can just be doing that. So you're doing that stuff underneath the sax player, but then if he goes out, that's when you bring in the chromatic planning. So the sax player is going, if he goes, he might like take that down a half step and then do a line a half step lower, and you're down here doing this comping in C minor. So let's say the sax player does that, you can take this comping and you can move it down a half step to follow what he's doing. And then if he's moving chromatically in a way like somebody like John Coltrane would have done, then you can essentially move in your own patterns, and it will, if you're doing your own chromatic patterns, it will align interestingly with what he's doing if he's doing his own chromatic patterns. It doesn't need to align exactly. It doesn't have to be precise as far as which chromatic keys you each end up in. It just has to be moving in different directions chromatically, eventually landing in your center, which is C minor in this specific case. Let me sort of give you an example of that. Maybe I'll turn this down so you can hear my speaking a little bit better. So your sax player is like, now pretend that my left hand, I wish I had a better way of doing the video here, it's so clunky. But anyway, the left hand, I'm just going to represent the full chordal voicing with 3 notes. But keep in mind, you can do the full chordal voicing if you're actually playing this. But I'm going to pretend I'm the sax player up here. So... say sax player just did that note, then eventually your left hand goes chromatically somewhere and gets back to C through a lot of different ways. If you really want to end up in a spot that makes sense, you end with your the G, some form of the 5 altered, which could be like landing on really the A flat. If you're comping an A flat minor, that leads well enough to the 5, because A flat minor, if you add the major 6 and 7 in there, is all of the upper extensions of the 5 chord. Like that, you know? So, sax player, I'm going to slow this down. So this is your sax player up here, and then I just immediately switch to follow him. Maybe you're still doing the ostinato of the C minor, of the C fifth in the bass over there. However, you can move chromatically here. Now, see, your sax player went way up here, he ended on an F sharp, which is still out, but it's only a half step away from a G, which is the 5 of your 1. So that's pretty close to being in. You, down here, have landed on your A flat, which if I were to extend it up here to the full comping, it would be like this comping of the A flat minor, which can essentially, you don't really have to do that much to go back to C. If you want to make it be even more resolute, you can go like that. So it's an A flat minor chord, but then you're essentially making the root into a G. And see, all of these other notes up here sort of fit into the A flat minor. If you're thinking A flat minor, this is your 2, this is your major 6, your 5, your minor 3, your major 6, and your major 7. But you're thinking of it now in G because this is essentially used, the A flat minor is essentially used as a chord with all of the upper extensions of G7, dominant 7, all the altered extensions rather, which then leads back to your 1. What your full comping in the left hand would look like if I weren't playing the sax player part up there, it'd be like, you're in C minor, let's say the sax player now went out, fuck, that was wrong. See? Did you see what I did there? I'll do it again. So essentially I landed up on the A flat. It's a very, very simple method of that was just like basically going up chromatically. It wasn't a pattern. You can do a pattern like up a minor third, down a whole step, up a minor third, down a whole step, up a minor third, down a whole step, up a minor third, down a whole step. Keep going until you're up to A flat minor, and then change it slightly so now it's G7, and then you're back to your C there. So hey, how's it going? Jimmy, you want to come and say hi? I'm teaching a live lesson. There are 23 people watching.
What's up, dudes? What up?
That's Jimmy. He's our production manager. He does not play piano. All right, Jimmy. You see, look what you did. 6 people left. All right, we're gonna continue now, guys. Sorry about that. All right, so that's essentially the That's essentially your, hey, what's up, man? Now it's the talk of the town that I'm teaching a piano lesson to you guys, I guess. So that's essentially the McCoy Tyner concept of comping. What else do you want to know? Oh, live gear. Yeah, I mean, that's less interesting, but I could tell you a little bit about it. I use a Yamaha CP4 for the piano sound. I'm trying to get a Montage 8 for the piano sound because I do a big solo thing with piano and they're being difficult and not getting the best possible piano for it, which is silly because we're playing to like 12,000 people a night, but that's the gear that I use. But that's part of it. Yamaha CP4, a Yamaha MX49, and a Moog Little Fatty for the bass. And then I use MainStage, and I program a ton of sounds in MainStage using Native Instruments plugins and Omnisphere plugins as well. I program a ton of stuff in Massive. And then I use sometimes when I can get my hands on a Montage 8, I use the native sounds in that. So that's the live gear that I use for this show, for the Halsey show. Did I say it's Halsey? Maybe I didn't mention it's Halsey. Anyway, that's the live gear. Anybody have any questions about anything else? Or should I just maybe I'll just play some standards until somebody decides that they will have another question they want to watch. not the right chord, but it's kind of funny. When I'm doing this live, I can't really stop to fix it. Emerson, come on, man. Anyway, how do I make a standard my own instead of just what's on the page? Well, okay, there are actually a lot of ways to do that. That's a great question. Sorry, grande music. So I make one way is reharmonization, but there are ways that you can. There are a lot of techniques you can use that are not just reharmonizations, because like a standard is a very basic idea, right? They were all mostly originally show tunes, and there are tons of different ways to treat them. So let me give you an example. There's the tune Blue and Green. This is a standard that was not a show tune, obviously. It was a Miles Davis, Bill Evans hit that they had. So it's very basic if you do the first, it's just 10 bars. Oh, come on, dude, really? Of course, this is gonna like go to all the crew that I'm doing is using a silly headset and teaching a piano lesson to you guys at 3:07 a.m. What's up, Jimmy? Hey, everybody say hi to Jimmy. So dumb. All right, anyway, back to the... All right. So it's a 10 bar thing, pretty basic. In D minor, essentially. 2-5-1 to the flat 6. So 1 to 5 to the minor 1. Kind of makes us round to the tonicizing the minor 5, but then goes back to the 1. The reason I say that it's in D minor is because when they end this song, they end it on D minor. It's just like, you know, if it were really essentially, I mean, yeah, that's like the closest to the tonic that you can really figure in the song. People were saying hi to Jimmy. That's hilarious. That's funny. It's midnight here, getting silly. No, it's all good, man. This is the time to be silly. It's 3:08 a.m. here. I'm on the East Coast, everybody. Guess you're watching from LA or something. So I will address Nathaniel. Maybe I'll be able to address that later. Let me talk about how to make this standard your own. So one way that McCoy McCraven, my friend, who I play with, made this his own was by changing the time signature. So instead of doing it like a ballad, see, that's pretty basic. It's beautiful, but basic. He took it to 7, but made it a fast 7 in the context of the long 4. So Obviously I had a wrong note in there, but you get the idea. So could you tell that wasn't 7? I'm thinking of it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is an interesting way of playing it, but then you look for ways to make it more, like you want to say more with it, right? You don't want to make it complicated just to make it complicated, but think of how you can say more with the idea that you've chosen. So we've chosen the idea of 7. Now we're going to think of, what do they do on the record? They make it double time. So on the record they go like, on the Bill Evans version of it, they do this. It's pretty slow, but I'll get there to the double time. And then they make the changes twice as fast. And now I'm getting heckled by the peanut gallery. So then what they also do in that record, in the Bill Evans record, is they double time it again. So it goes, I think. So they double time it 3 times. Now if you do it in 7, taking that concept and putting it in the place of what they did on the record makes it really unique and interesting, because then you're doing a 7 but double timing it in the context of the 7 and double timing it again in the context of the 7, and it becomes its own whole world of interest. So you start with this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And you can even make it not sound like a 7, even though you're still keeping the 7. Make it sound like a slow swing, but always keep it precise. And then it doubles. And then again. Solo over it, which is really cool. But always stay precise. And then double it. Obviously my solo is not very good right there because I'm wearing a stupid headset and it's 3:14 in the morning and I'm just explaining a concept. However, if you can, that's to give you an example of, you pick a concept and then you work within the concept to expand with being very precise and specific about how you're expanding, and then you make something your own in that way. Other ways are you can reharmonize, and there are tons of different ways to reharmonize. You just have to find the cool things that, thank you, Grande Music. You just have to find the ways that that the bass note and the melody note have freedom, like in between the two. So in the context of blue and green, as long as we're sticking with blue and green, let's just look at the melody. And I've actually done an entire video on blue and green on reharmonizing it. I don't know if it's still up or not, but you may want to look for it. I'll probably do better there than I do in this video, because this is a live lesson. But if you so check this out. This is the melody, right? Let's stick with that same first chord, because you don't want to be too like jarring with your reharmonization. Here's your same second chord. If you want to, let's just talk about like a very minimal reharmonization. I always do a passing chord here, which is sort of like an already a reharmonization. Instead of doing the D minor to C minor, which is what is in the record, I do D minor, put the melody note over a D flat, turn that into a D flat dominant 7 sharp 11, because the melody note is the sharp 11, and then the C minor to the 5 of the B flat, which is F7. But now this is a place where you could do a cool, subtle reharmonization. What's your next note? That's your next note, right? And your bass note, what they play on the record is either a B flat major, right? So it's, or they do a G minor. They both have the same sort of functionality because it leads to this leads to the A7 with the sharp 5 going there. But what if instead of going to the B flat, you picked a different bass note? So this bass note works with the melody if you take it up a half step from where it's supposed to be and you play a B, and then essentially you're playing a G7 over B, and then you could go to your next thing, but it doesn't actually work that well if you go to the original chord. So I would instead do walk up, so the melody's up there, and then you can do your A7 with the sharp 9 over the 3. So then what it ends up sounding like is and so then it gives this cool, like, it's like walking up now rather than just moving around. It's giving a different sort of counterpoint to the bass. Now I won't go through the full reharmonization. Yeah, it does. It does kind of sound diminished in a way, because this is a diminished 7 chord. If you look at it as a B, you could say you're reharmonizing it to be B diminished 7. However, whenever I see a B diminished 7, I think of it as a dominant 7 of the note 3, or a major third below it. So a B diminished 7, essentially I think of it as a G dominant 7 over B, because it's so much easier to solo over the G, and essentially it's the same functionality. The G7 is the same, it has the same tritone in it as the B diminished 7, so all of the notes lead in the same direction. The B diminished 7 leads, all the notes lead in the same direction as the G dominant 7, and I know that's a loaded phrase, notes leading in the same direction, and it would take me a long time to describe what that actually means in the context of a tritone going in one direction and how that functions, because that goes to the essence of music. But I talk about that in a music theory lesson that I do. I think I uploaded it maybe like a half a year to a year ago. So look through those lessons if you want more on that, because there's like an hour-long explanation of that. Okay, what are some of my favorite albums? Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, I listen to Kind of Blue constantly. I mean, anything Miles Davis, man. I know it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. He's like, the Kind of Blue is the epitome of musicality in a modal context. So if you're trying to be melodic in a single mode, just listen to Kind of Blue over and over again. It's so incredibly musical. Especially Miles's solos, but also Cannonball's solos. Coltrane was a little young at that point. His solos are okay, but not like nearly what his solos are on Coltrane's later works. So that being said, I listen to Coltrane, listen to the Paris concert. What he does and what McCoy Tyner does on that is great. Coltrane live at the Village Vanguard, out of this world. McCoy Tyner, what's it called? I can't remember. Whatever Passion Dance is on, whatever that album is, that's a great album to listen to. In fact, just listen to Passion Dance over and over again if you want to learn the chromatic planning thing, because he does it so clearly on that album. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Let's see. What are other people talking about here? What are you asking? How do I choose my voicings? Okay, that's a good question. So, choosing voicings, voicings are built from, to make a real voicing, you need to know how it's built from the ground up. You need to know that you expand a voicing based on what you're trying to say in the context of a chord. So let's just look at C. You have a C note. So people and their music. 1 second. Oh, they're in the room back there. All right. Anyway, so look at it in the context of C. You have your C here. Now, if you want to express a third in the context of a C, hey, what's up? I'm doing a piano lesson. It's okay. You can hang out if you want. You're welcome to. All right. Hey, what's up? So there's you have your C, and you're expressing your third now, right? And probably your fifth. And let's just say your seventh. We'll just skip ahead to the basic of the chords that you'd want to use. So you have your major 7 there. That is the most basic voicing of a major 7. If you're using your left hand to comp for yourself, you're probably down here, and you probably don't want to make it that basic. You probably want to do something a little more interesting. So maybe you do an inversion. So that's the first inversion, I think it's called. You just take the 1 that's down here and you bring it up an octave. So now you've got this voicing, right? It's a little more interesting. Or you do your second inversion, bring it up, so bring that next note up an octave, and now you've got this nice crunch in the middle of your voicing. It's still a closed voicing, and I'll teach you open voicings in a second. But that's a good that's a good closed voicing to use. And then your other closed voicing is this. If you take that and move it up an octave, take your G and move it up an octave. So now you've got the crunch on the bottom, which down here sounds a little muddy, but if you're an F, it sounds fine. You know? And that's good to use in voice leading, because if you're going from this in F to C, you could go from F there to C there, and all I'm using is this voicing of F to this voicing of C, both major 7s. Good morning, Just Log. So, oh yeah, 4/2 inversions. Sorry, my vocabulary, I'm like, how many years out of college now? 10 years out of college? So my vocabulary as far as like what to call some of these things is not great. You please fill in the gaps, music community. Okay, so now let's just say you actually want to do a 9 chord. So you're C9, right? You don't need the 1, so now you're left with these. If you want to do an open voicing, there's a thing called drop 2, where you take the second note and you drop it down. So this is the second note down, the B, if you look at it from the top, and you will drop it down an octave. So now you're here. It's a little muddy down there, but bring it up the octave, and now it's a nice open voicing. Or if you want to look at it the other way, take this and bring it up the octave. This is more, I mean, this is still the drop 2. So like, let's say you're doing this inversion of the 9 chord. You have your 7, 9, 3, and 5. Then you take the second note from the top and drop it down an octave. And then you're here, right? So now you've got a beautiful open voicing, and you can. So if you want to move this voicing in different directions, then you can still use the drop 2. For example, this is your next inversion up, right? That's 9, 3, 5, and 7. Take this and move it down, and now you've got this open voicing. So then you go between this and this and this. And maybe sometimes use the 1 in there. That's a shitty one. See, the thing is, you want to avoid minor 9s. Avoid this, because that's not very pretty, unless you're using it intentionally. It's cool to, like, if you know that it's dissonant and you're using it for dissonance, then use it, but don't accidentally use it. And I'm only doing it in one key right now, but it works in every key. You know, here's F. I'm using the 6th. So the thing is, you can use this in the context of whatever. Like, let's say you have a 4-note voicing that uses the 6. So you have 3, 6, 7, and 9. Now you can bring this down the octave, and now this is your open voicing, which is again a quartal voicing. If you're an F, it's beautiful. You know? I mean, you know, that makes sense. All right, peace out, Grande Music. Thanks for your messages and your interaction. And not peace out to the rest of you. I'm staying on. I'll keep answering questions because I'm bored, and it's 3:30 a.m. and I don't want to go to sleep. So yeah, does that answer your question about the voicings though? I feel like that kind of can open you up, and you can do 5-note voicings in that way too. It gets a little bit more open, a little more complicated. But do that in every key though. What I just showed you in C, make sure that you're doing it in all the keys. Don't just learn these in C, because if you do, you'll be stuck and you won't be able to play with anybody, because very few people stay in C the whole time. Anyway, how do you go about expanding your bebop vocabulary? That's a good question. First, you have to know the essence of bebop, and I've been thinking of doing a video on this. I'll explain it very briefly right now, but the bebop vocabulary has lasted through time because it's a brilliantly constructed vocabulary. It takes into account the essence of music as it relates to all of composition, and classical and jazz and everything else. because there are so many reasons for this, actually. I can't go into the whole thing. But if you look at it, its root is a single note and how you enclose that note. Right? So I've just enclosed it with 2 half steps. Or a half step, whole step to like loop around the note that I'm enclosing, and then going to the note that I'm picking. So the other option is going to the note via half steps, from the top or from the bottom. Do those begin to sound familiar? That's the beginning of the bebop vocabulary, but it takes into account the I'm glad that gave you a better understanding, Chris. It takes into account the essence of what makes music music, which is how you treat a tone, moving to a tone from different directions, how a tone relates to the other tones that you're playing. So like this note, how that relates to this note. Because if you take this down a half step, then it's hitting the octave away from this note. But if you move it up a major 7, it's a much bigger leap, but you're going to essentially the same note in a different octave. It sounds simple, but it's a very important phenomenon if you're trying to understand how to actually create music and not just play notes. But that's what the bebop vocabulary is based in, and that's what Charlie Parker studied. And he listened to all different types of music, and he was trying to go to study with one of the great contemporary atonal classical composers at the time, but then he died before he was able to. There's record of it. So essentially I'm digressing, but if you look at the way that a note is enclosed, right? So this is, let's look at C, because C is the easiest to just see on a piano. I'm enclosing the 5. I'm closing it with a half step from this direction, a half step from this direction, to the 5. Let's say I want to enclose the 3 of the 2. So I'm in the 2 is your D minor. Now I'm going to enclose the 3 of the 5. Or let's do that to stick within the context of the diatonic scale. And then I'm going to enclose the 3 of the 1. This is the most basic iteration of the roots of bebop. So you're enclosing. Now, this is a way that you can practice if you're playing, like, I don't know, a standard. Work with a single note, a single chord tone of every chord, and then practice enclosing it, like All the Things You Are. Or enclosing it or leading to it via half steps. Sorry. Right? It begins to sound like bebop. Now, this is not taking into account all the other facets, which is once you are dealing with enclosing notes, you're dealing with which notes you're enclosing. So then you have extended pieces of vocabulary that have become staples, like that, which takes into account what I just said, along with several other layers of interest. But that piece of vocabulary can be found on a sheet that I've actually uploaded. I think it's on my How to Become a Well-Rounded Jazz Pianist video. It's like in the description of that video. I linked to it, but it's bebop cliches. And you should learn all of these bebop cliches in every key if you have time to do, which I don't. I need to go back and do it at some point. But when you learn them, the thing is, make sure you're not just learning the notes. You have to learn why they work. So if you look at this, you look at where it started, your first note that you focused on, ba ba, is your G, right? The 5 of the 1. Now, look at where you ended. Right back on that same note. So essentially, you were going up, back down to the same focal point that you started on. You have a goal note, which I discussed in other videos as well. But now one other thing to look at is, look at where your top note is. It's a passing tone, but it's your top note of the phrase, and it's the same exact note in a different octave as your goal note. So your ear hears all these things, hears all these similarities, and puts it together in a way that is, it creates interest, it creates continuity, and that's what makes it sound good. It's not just having the pieces of vocabulary or just doing enclosures or whatever. It's how it all relates in a macro context and how every single note relates to every other note that you're playing. So learn that lick, but learn it in all the keys, like, so be able to, and then, be able to do it in all the keys. Then, if you want to go crazy, flip it upside down and do it on the, and do it on its head, which will give you a minor resolution, which I'll go through negative harmony in another video. I think I explained it a little bit in some video in the past, but yeah. Anyway, that's the essence of it. This headset is like killing my head now, so I've got to. Oh yeah, the video with my handwritten bebop vocabulary. It's not my handwriting. It's like somebody else. I got it from my teacher, Jim Trumpeter, when like many years ago. Maybe like 10 years ago or 8 years ago or something. Anyway, I gotta stop this video, so I'm gonna take this stupid headset off. Oh my god, I probably have a giant thing on my head now. Let me see if I can turn this thing around and say, hi, yeah, I've got a stupid, look at this. This is terrible, because I'm using this like headset thing to like show you the video. If anybody has any ideas of how I can, yeah, Joseph, I know. If anybody has any ideas of how I can like do this without, like, have some sort of, I've been looking for a headset that I could, it's pretty bad. I haven't, no, okay, so that's the thing. I can't bring around a tripod that will fit in my backpack that can go tall enough to show the video. Finally, some blood coming back to my head. This is crazy. Tape it to a helmet. That might be better. Maybe I should wear a helmet and then put this strap over the helmet. Forever marked sine waves on my forehead, right? Seriously, it's crazy. Yeah, I can't figure it out, but I'm gonna have to. I've been looking for, I can buy like a video camera to tape to my glasses or that'll hook onto my glasses, but I haven't been able to find it. I'm like, maybe I'll do like Google Glass or something like that. But I don't know, just something. If you guys have suggestions of how I can actually videotape these lessons from my own perspective, something that I can take on the road, please let me know, because I want to keep doing these lessons for you. And I don't think I can handle doing this stupid headset for that much more. Who am I touring with? I'm touring with an artist named Halsey. Have you heard of her? If you're not like a girl in the age of like 13 to 25, you probably haven't, but maybe you haven't. No, GoPro, I don't think you can stream from GoPro. I don't know, maybe you can, but also if I got a GoPro to tape it, like how do I tape it to, or I need like a helmet for the GoPro, you know? Ideally, I'd like to be able to just get some glasses, and I've been researching it, but I haven't been able to find it yet. Some glasses that I can just like put prescription lenses in that have a little video camera on them. Anyway, sourcing that to the crowd now. This will remain on video, so if any of you guys find it, please let me know. There are 21 people watching this now, so aside from like actually playing piano for you, anything else I can talk about? because I'm not putting this helmet back on, this headset. Yeah, bike helmet. I'm already made fun of a lot by the guys on tour with me. If I were wearing a bike helmet, that would probably be even worse. Though this helmet looks pretty nerdy. I don't know. I feel like we're all nerds here. We're safe here. Yeah, Google Glass. I was thinking of maybe Google Glass. That might be the solution. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you. What else? I don't know. You guys... Am I into jazz fusion? Are you kidding? Of course I'm into jazz fusion. My group's name is Polyrhythmic, though we're changing the name. But look up Greg Spiro Polyrhythmic. And you'll be able to see my own fusion. But, oh yeah, you're welcome, Joshua. My pleasure. But yeah, Chick Corea Electric Band is killing. They actually, there's a, if you look at the acoustic band playing some of the stuff that, like, well, actually, I'm getting things messed up now. Obviously, the electric band is insane, but then his stuff with there's a whole album that they just released with, I think it's Brian Blade and John Patitucci playing trio stuff. Oh, you're welcome, Sammy. My pleasure. Yeah, Brian Blade and wow, why are more people watching the video now? It's funny. I'm just like, I'm not even facing a piano, and I just got up to 24 people. It's kind of hilarious. But yeah, the one with Brian Blade and John Patitucci is so insane. And they're doing some standards, but then also like, oh, thank you, Matt. That's very sweet of you. Sunday morning in Switzerland. We got some Switzerland people here. That's pretty cool. Love that. I think I was just in Switzerland, I believe. I can't remember where we played. But with Halsey, I mean, if you look at, until I am not on this tour anymore, I'll be touring wherever Halsey's touring. Any advice for pseudo guitar playing on piano? What do you mean pseudo guitar playing? Sunday evening down in New Zealand? Nice. Montreux? I've not played the Montreux Jazz Fest. I would like to, and I don't think I've played in Zurich. But what do you mean, just log? Rhythmically similar stuff for pseudo guitar playing on piano. Oh, like to be able to play like a... Yeah, actually. So I was having a really interesting conversation with Herbie Hancock about this. Did you know that when he was doing Headhunters, he wanted to do the guitar parts on piano. That's why he used a clavinet. 'Cause you know, he's got that stuff like, I mean, I'll put on the headset for like just a second. I really want to show you this. All right, so check this out. He does that thing that's like, that's basically a guitar riff, right? But that's when in actual proof, in that tune, he's doing this. Okay, taking this off again. So look into Herbie Hancock's treatment of the clavinet. He will give you some great, yeah, I play with Hadrian. We just recorded a new record that's really cool. I can't wait for you to hear it. Yeah, so Herbie, his treatment of the clavinet is a great way of learning guitar-ish things on piano, because that's what he did. It was the 70s. There was always a rhythm guitar. However, another thing is to just actually look at rhythm guitar players and transcribe some rhythm guitar. I transcribe saxophone stuff, and that does tons of help for my treatment of phrasing. Yeah. So I would actually transcribe guitar on second thought. I mean, Herbie's great, but why not go right to the source? Transcribe like Wah Wah Watson. Look at the stuff that he's played on, and then get your, like, just be able to play those rhythmic things on, or power chords on an overdriven clavinet, which is everybody loves to do, or maybe make the Rhodes really distorted and play it like a guitar. Or you could focus on how to be musical with whichever limitations you're given, which is what I prefer. I actually try to play on an acoustic piano whenever I can. Whenever I play with polyrhythmic, it's always, it's just like acoustic. I don't do electric piano with that. Anyway, it's getting late, so I'm gonna leave unless anybody has anything really interesting that they wanna ask me. I'm gonna eat my little vegetable plate that they gave us in the green room here. You are welcome, Nathaniel. Upload this so you can transcribe. Oh, okay, this will be uploaded. Oh man, yeah, if you transcribe it, if you transcribe any of this, please let me know. People are so noisy. I should close this door. I didn't keep it open. God, obnoxious. Oh, how to swing, Joseph. I can't go through that whole thing right now, but there's a whole video on it, and I talk about, I think, Oscar Peterson technique. That's the video where I'm talking about Oscar Peterson technique. So look that up. There's a whole thing on it, and I talk about swing. I think you'll get a lot out of that lesson. But yeah, if you transcribe this, Nathaniel, please message it to me, and I will, right? Oscar Peterson was the god of swing. Thank you guys for keeping me company. It's good to be able to talk about music with people, even when I'm in a context with a ton of people who don't care about music. It's hilarious because it's one of the biggest pop tours in the world right now, and the majority of the people on it actually just don't really care about music. But what are you gonna do? So it's great to talk to you guys about music and what makes music intricate and what makes it music, because there's a lot to it and it's a very interesting topic. And you guys don't make fun of me for liking it, which I really appreciate. From Johannesburg, South Africa. I want to go to Johannesburg so badly. I want to see it. We're done with this tour, I think, in January, and then I'm going to be working more on polyrhythmic stuff, and then we're going to move on to I Aspire to Be You. Haha, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you. You know, I think we're probably coming to Australia. I think next year, probably early next year, if I don't get myself fired by then for like being too high maintenance, then it's very likely I'll be coming to Australia. Yeah, it's Sammy. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for liking that video. A lot of people seem to like that. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess that's it, guys. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go and practice now. I do have more practicing to do. I feel like I'm getting really rusty because I haven't had this practice keyboard for like a week since we've been on the tour. Getting on contact down at GIJ. What is that? What's GIJ? I mean, also, by the way, Generations in Jazz? I don't know what that is, but I'm down to do whatever, guys. If you have a network you want to plug me into to like play or do master classes, or performances. I mean, I finally have a record label for polyrhythmic, so, oh cool. Well, yeah, tell James Morrison to hit me up. But now that polyrhythmic has a record label, we're going to be publicized, and then I'll probably be able to tour with that as well. But anywhere that the Halsey tour is, if there is another organization that wants to have me in any of those places to like do a class or a concert or whatever, just like I'm down. So spread the word. I don't know how many people will actually watch this. Maybe I'll keep this whole thing up. Anyway, that's all. I'm gonna go because I need to work on stuff, and it's 3:50 a.m. now, and the bus is leaving at 6 a.m. So, keep tuning back. Thanks for hanging out with me this whole time. Spread the word about weekly piano. Cool. Yeah, next time Halsey's in Switzerland, then Sammy, hit me up because that means I'll be there. Alright, guys. Bye bye. Have a good night. You're welcome, Chris.